Good evening, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Mayor and Board of Trustees. My name is Trustee Guy Francis. I'm filling in for Mayor Grasso as he has been delayed for this meeting tonight. Calling this meeting to order, and if I could ask Trustee Mattal, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, Trustee Mattal.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Schiappa.
Here.
Trustee Pavesa.
Here.
Trustee Snyder.
Here.
Trustee Mattal.
Here.
Trustee Smith.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Guy, Francis.
Here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 3, presentations and public hearings. There are none this evening, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk on the consent agenda are considered routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda, discussed by the board, open for public comment, and voted upon during this meeting. Item 5, minutes. Approval of the regular board meeting of April 11th, 2022. 5B, receive and file Economic Development Committee meeting of April 6th, 2022. 5C, receive and file the Plan Commission meeting of April 18th, 2022. 6A, ordinances. Approval of an ordinance rezoning property from the L1 Light Industrial District to the B2 General Business District, Z05 2022, 100, 130, 800, and 900 Burr Ridge Parkway, Village of Burr Ridge. 6B, approval of an ordinance rezoning property from L1 Light Industrial to the O2 Office and Hotel District, Z06 2022, 745 McClintock Drive, Village of Burr Ridge. 6C, approval of an ordinance rezoning property from L1 Light Industrial District to the O2 Office and Hotel District, Z07 2022, 835 McClintock Drive, Village of Burr Ridge. 7A, resolutions. Adoption of a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between the Village of Burr Ridge and the County of DuPage for the Elm Street Culvert Replacement Project. 7B, adoption of a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between the Village of Burr Ridge, the Justice Willow Springs Water Commission, and the Illinois State Toll Highway Authority for a water system interconnect as part of the Tollways Mile-Long Bridge Project. 8B, approval of an award of a supplemental contract for the construction engineering services on the County Line Road Sidewalk Connection Project to Burns & McDonnell Engineering Company, Inc. of Chicago, Illinois, in the amount of $37,251. 8C, approval of purchase of police fleet computers and related equipment from CDS Office Technologies of Itasca, Illinois, in the amount of $80,339. 8D, approval to hire a replacement part-time administrative assistant to fill the vacancy created by the promotion of Claire Nass. Apologies. 8E, approval of the vendor list dated April 25th, 2022 in the amount of $274,201.41 for all funds, plus $189,995.09 for payroll for the period ending April 2nd, 2022, for a grand total of $464,196.50, which includes no special expenditures. Could I please have a motion for agenda items 5A, B, and C, 6A, B, and C, 7A and B, 8, B, C, D, and E?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Is there any discussion or comments from members of the audience on the motion? Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Trustee Schiappa.
Yes.
Trustee Snyder.
Yes.
Trustee Mattal.
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Trustee Pavesa.
Yes.
Trustee Francis.
Yes.
Passes.
6-0, the motion passes. Thank you. Mayor Grasso?
Oh, thank you.
consent?
Yes.
Thank you, trustee Francis.
Welcome.
Sorry for being a little bit late. So I believe the Mayor Pro Tem took us through the consent agenda. So that will take us to 8A, consideration of Phase 1 study by Indian Head Park and Cook County for the Wolf Road reconstruction project. Good evening, Dave.
Hey, good evening, Mayor. Thank you for having us. So we put this agenda item on tonight's agenda so that we could just discuss the public meeting held recently by Indian Head Park and Cook County in regards to the Phase 1 study of Wolf Road. Take us back a little bit. This all started back in 2018 when the Village of Indian Head Park obtained the Invest in Cook grant to study pedestrian access and sidewalk feasibility along Wolf Road, the limits being 72nd Street on the south to like Acacia Drive on the north. That was just, again, for the purposes of sidewalk and pedestrian access. Burr Ridge had sidewalks south of 72nd Street on Wolf Road. That's why it stopped where it did through Burr Ridge. Fast forward a little bit to 2019-2020, now Cook County wanted to partner and do more of a complete street study of the Wolf Road corridor. Now we're going to involve traffic and the environment as well as pedestrians, vehicles, bicycles, things of that nature. So it became a little more involved. In January 2021, we had a kickoff meeting or kind of an introduction meeting with Burr Ridge staff, where Burr Ridge then, we let them know about some of the constraints, some of the opportunities certainly, but then also wanted to make sure that they corresponded with the school district and the park district right through there too. So now on April 7th, 2022, they brought their first draft of alternatives for the Wolf Road corridor. I should back up a little bit more. Now with that complete street study, the project limits extended from Plainfield Road on the north to 79th Street on the south. So now it's a larger section, 2.3 miles of Wolf Road. So they developed their studies, and then on April 7th, 2022, just had their open meeting, open public meeting. So now to present, again, the purpose of this meeting is to hear a little bit about what was presented at that, and then to solicit board comments that we would then formalize to Cook County as part of our input. So now I'd like to introduce Tony Spinelli, village engineer for the Village of Indian Head Park.
Thank you, Dave. Good evening. Like Dave indicated, my name is Tony Spinelli. I work for Strand Associates. We're an engineering consulting firm. I'm based out of our Joliet office, but we do have offices nationwide. Purpose of tonight's meeting is to introduce the board to the Wolf Road Phase 1 study that would impact the Burr Ridge area. Like Dave indicated, back in 2018, Indian Head Park was successful in getting an Invest in Cook grant. That was to do a Phase 1 study for pedestrian accommodations along Wolf Road from within their corporate limits. So we started that process. We got about 75% through that process and wound up having a meeting with the county and indicating that maybe something more for this corridor would be better than just putting a sidewalk on one side or the other. There's some very deep and well-defined drainage ditches alongside the road. You get a lot of traffic in that area. You get bike and pedestrian access on the roadway, which also causes some disruption of traffic flow. So we started looking into what type of improvements could happen along Wolf Road. So we took about a year and a half. Indian Head Park entered into an intergovernmental agreement with Cook County Department of Transportation. Since Wolf Road is their roadway, Cook County is responsible for it, but the county likes to have these joint projects so that Indian Head Park is invested in this, and they're taking the lead on this. So as their village engineer, we are putting together the Phase 1 study for the county and for the village. The original project limits were from 72nd Street north to Plainfield Road. And again, that was so that it fell within corporate limits. We know that part of Indian Head Park does go south of 72nd on the east side of Wolf Road, but there wasn't a good termini for these improvements at that location, so we were stopping at 72nd Street. Late 2020, I think it was November of 2020, we met with the county and had our kickoff meeting. At that meeting, the county indicated they acknowledged our reasoning for stopping at 72nd Street, but had requested that we go all the way south into Burr Ridge to 79th Street. You know, we have a light there already, and it just would be a better corridor to go all the way down to 79th Street. So at that point, we started the process. I know that the village administrator had reached out to some of the staff here at Burr Ridge to inform you of what's going on, and that it was no intention of Indian Head Park to step on your toes, but just to inform you that we are taking the lead on this project since the majority of the improvements would happen within Indian Head Park. So on April 7th, we did have our first public meeting. There was about 18 months worth of initial design and evaluations with regards to environmental, how do things fit in the right-of-way. A whole bunch of things happened before this April 7th meeting. So at the April 7th meeting, then we disclosed two different options for the corridor. Tonight we're going to focus on Burr Ridge's section, which is one option. And it's a 3-lane roadway that we're envisioning right now, which would have a northbound lane, a southbound lane, a center turn lane, and then also pedestrian accommodations with a bike path on one side of the road and a sidewalk on the other side of the road. So with that, Evan, can you switch to the next slide here, please? So right now we are in the phase 1, and the phase 1 is basically a study to determine your purpose and need. And as I alluded to, the purpose was to provide a corridor with operational efficiency and safety, and also enhance the corridor for pedestrian and bicycle accommodations. The need that we've determined is that the intersection operations currently are not sufficient for future traffic demands, along with corridor crash rates and injury crash rate exceed statewide averages, and then the pedestrian and bicycle accommodations are inadequate. There are sidewalks south of 294, but it's not consistent all the way down to 79th Street. They're intermittent, so that's some of the things we want to improve on. Next slide, please. So this here is a map showing the actual corridor of the project. And like we're going to start at the north end of Plainfield Road, head south all the way to 79th, just south of 294. Just for people in the audience, you can see 72nd Street is the little stub crossway. Joliet Road's on the angle. You come down a little further south, that's 72nd Street. And then all the way at the bottom of the page there is 79th Street. So these improvements will impact that entire stretch of Wolf Road, along with some minor improvements at the intersection of 79th Street, east and west of Wolf, also east and west of Wolf Road at 72nd Street, and some intersection improvements at Joliet Road. So the project timeline here, you can see we had our kickoff meeting late 2020, and through middle to late of 2021 is when we did all our existing condition review and assessments. And then we started developing and refining our alternatives. So they're showing where we are here is the April 7th, which was our public meeting where we put our cards out and showed the options for the different improvements in this corridor. And right now we envision approval towards late of 2023. We do a submittal, we refine our submittal, we have another public meeting so that the residents and everyone involved, the stakeholders, Burr Ridge, school district, countryside, everyone will get this information. You'll hear our recommendations. Since this is a county road and they're paying for it, certain steps we have to do. So after the public meeting number 2, we then actually submit our findings and recommendations to the state, and the state and the Federal Highway Administration both review this, and then they approve or deny our recommendations. So at this point, we're anticipating final report approval towards the end of 2023. We don't have a start date or an approximate start date for phase 2 or phase 3 at this time. A lot depends on when we actually get our approval of the phase 1, then also when funding comes in. So, but once phase 2 starts, we're anticipating just shy of 2 years for the full design and approval. We do our design, and then again, it goes back to IDOT and FHWA for their final approval of the construction plans. Then after that is when we would go into phase 3, which is your actual construction. And we're envisioning 2 years of a 2-year time frame for construction. We'll skip this. It's the Joliet Road intersection, just showing some difficulties. In 2019, we actually did I believe it was a 48-hour traffic count. And so the numbers that are shown on there are actual traffic counts midweek. So it was not done over a weekend. It was not done over a holiday. It included when school was in. So those are valid traffic numbers. They're not coming out of a book from a planner that might have did it in early 2000. These are current values. And then the numbers in parentheses are the projection to the 2050 traffic. Next slide, please, Evan. So this top image here, this is your section of Wolf Road, is what we're envisioning this will be. And this is from 79th Street north to the 294 off-ramp. Again, it would be a one northbound lane, a single southbound lane with a two-way left turn lane in the middle, which is your center turn lane. And then we would have a pedestrian shared use path it'd be about 10 foot wide on one side. It's currently on the map, which you'll see later on. It's shown on the west side of Wolf Road. And then there'd be I believe it's a 5-foot sidewalk on the east side of Wolf Road. So these next slides that we're flipping through are the Indian Head Park section, so we're going to skip that. So basically our next step is we will collect and review all the public comment that occurred from the point of our April 7th meeting until actually we are having another meeting tomorrow night at Lionsville Church for any residents that were not able to attend the first meeting. So we're extending our public comment period until Thursday, May 12th. That allows, to get ample time for public comment. Then once the public comment period is ended, we will be evaluating all the public comment that comes in. We have some forms I brought with me. We also, on our website, actually Indian Head Park's website, there's an electronic form that people can fill out and residents can fill out, submit that. All of these comment forms get included in the report. We have this database that evaluates, or not so much evaluates, it actually compiles all these comments, and everything gets put into this report. So when we make our recommendations, the state and FHWA, they know why we have the recommendations that we do. And they're able to also see all the public comment. During this time before we get to our next public hearing, our public meeting, information meeting, we will be evaluating and selecting the preferred alternative. Then we're going to refine that and also look at the corridors in a little more detail to see if there are right-of-way acquisition needs, or can we do all these improvements without needing any right-of-way. And then once we finalize that report, and prior to submitting it to the state and FHWA, we will then present that information at the next public information meeting. So if you can go to the large images.
Okay.
Need that flash drive again, Evan?
Yeah.
While Evan's pulling that up, does anyone have any questions at this point?
Any trustees have any questions? Yes, Joe?
On the Wolf Road going through Burr Ridge, how much loss do you anticipate for the residents on Wolf Road?
Right
The
now,
expansion.
so right now, and it will come up here on the screen, the majority of the properties, we do not need any right-of-way acquisition. Good portion of it, there's sufficient right-of-way at this point to make these improvements. But the pavement will actually get wider by about 12 feet. So if you have the 2-lane section, actually it's a little bit less than that, because if you have the 2-lane section plus you have paved shoulders in that area, we're going to have 3 lanes of pavement. So approximately 36 feet of pavement plus curb and gutter. And then in areas where the ditches are at, we'll be evaluating whether or not we can actually put that into storm sewer, because we're going to be putting in curb and gutter for the roadway also. And then, and on the one side, and you can see on this photo here, there's a faint blue line on the west side. So, yep. So that blue line there is representing the 10-foot multi-use path, and the red line on the east side, so north is to the right on the screen here, that would be the sidewalk. In sections where there already is existing sidewalk, this project would remove that and replace the sidewalk. And the purpose of that is to avoid the undulating sidewalks in and out as you go down the road and travel parallel to the road. It's a visual safety for drivers and also pedestrians. You don't want the appearance of child on a bike or even an adult on a bike in a section that they're driving against traffic on the sidewalk and they start getting closer to the roadway. So we're trying to avoid that, and so we're going to do a uniform placement of that sidewalk and bike path along the corridor. Yes, sir.
You said there wasn't any cost that you're doing intergovernmental, and Cook County owns the road.
Correct.
How would Burr Ridge or Indian Head Park pay for it? They're not paying anything? It's
You're
all.
not paying for it all. It is 100% funded by Cook County.
And so the lead agency, you're just making sure everything's gonna work, you're gonna find the contractors, you're gonna handle it, you're gonna work with our village.
Right. So at this point, just being in the phase one journey right now, Indian Head Park is the lead agency, but Cook County is paying for the entire study.
Thank you.
Once we get into phase two and phase three, that will then be refined with Cook County as to who's going to maintain the lead ownership or the lead in this. And at that point, I'd have more answers for you. But right now, that part of it hasn't been determined. But it will still be a Cook County project. It's just we don't know if it's Cook County taking the lead or Indian Head Park maintaining that lead.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Yes.
A few questions, thank you. Thank you for your presentation and bringing this to our attention. So I'm just going to ask my questions as they relate to the Burr Ridge section, Joliet Road, south to 79th Street. So in your original design assessment that you performed for this portion of the project, you've taken into account the utility lines, the power poles that are on both sides of Wolf Road?
Yes.
And those will all be relocated or moved underground?
Once we get into final engineering, which is the phase two portion, we'll work with ComEd. If there's stuff that's in the way, it will have to get moved. Whether or not the determination to bury or keep the power lines overhead, that won't come until during phase two with our discussions with ComEd.
But the significant utility relocation?
Yes.
Okay. What will be the overall width in this proposal with 3 lanes, 2 pathways? What will be the overall width of the
So you'll have a
section?
Right. So you'll have approximately 40 feet of distance between the two curb lines, the the east and west curb line. There'll be about 40 feet there. On the west side, for now, I'm going to say west side because that's how it's drawn. On the west side, you'll have an additional 10 feet for the path, and I believe we're showing 5 or 8 feet between the path and the curb line.
Okay.
So call it 20 feet for discussion. So now we're at 60 feet.
Yep.
And on the east side, it'd be a 5-foot walk and call it another 5 feet. So we're about 70 feet of improvements, plus then adjustments for grade to match down an existing grade.
So 70 feet, and of that 70 feet, Trustee Snyder had asked about how much of that has to be acquired from private residences, and you're aware of that as well?
Yes.
Okay.
So on the screen here, and actually we're right here at the school property. We can use that for an example. The blue line right by 75th Street, there's a 10-foot dimension. At this stage, we're anticipating the potential for a 10-foot right-of-way acquisition. But that is to get improvements and make the grade change to get from the height of the bike path down to or up to existing grades. On the east side near the Park District, the dimension's not shown at that point, but I believe it's a 5-foot that we're anticipating.
Okay.
Once we get into final engineering, which is the phase two, those numbers will change. We may find that we only need 8 foot, or we might need nothing.
Sure. I understand it's all
Yeah.
conceptual,
Exactly.
pre-preliminary. So is there any chance of utilizing any of the existing pathways that are there?
There is a chance, but I know with these projects, typically Cook County prefers to install all new because main reason is we may be raising the grade slightly or lowering the grade slightly, and we want to make everything uniform.
Okay. You explained how, you answered my question about how this is being funded. Have you prepared a preliminary cost estimate
We have not.
for this section?
Not yet. We have not.
Is there any order of magnitude of the cost estimate? I mean, 1 million, 10 million, 100 million? I'm just curious.
You're
This
probably
is-
looking in excess of 10 million. We have a full bridge widening and reconstruct at Flag Creek.
Yep.
And then just south of Flag Creek, Actually, I believe it's right there at 75th Street. We have some box culverts there.
Yes.
That will have to also be reconstructed.
Okay. The newly reconstructed Tri-State Bridge over Wolf Road, that's wide enough to accommodate all of these?
Yes.
All of these improvements?
Yes, it
Okay.
is.
Even though it's out of the area we're talking, okay. You mentioned in your presentation about future traffic demands. Could you elaborate on that more?
So, there's a group of I guess call them engineers for lack of a better term. It's called CMAP, and they help with traffic projections and planning for the Chicagoland area.
Okay.
So we take our actual live data that we actually acquired, and then we apply their projections that they give to municipalities, IDOT, all of us engineers to use for projections for this traffic.
And so what is their basis? I mean, we're pretty much built out
Sure.
in that area. And I know Indian Head Park is, I'm sorry, Willow Springs is
Right.
as well, and on the unincorporated portions south.
Right. I do not know. I've never been involved in discussions with CMAP as to how they get their projections.
Okay.
I know at one point they were using a linear projection, which,
Based on past?
yes.
Okay, so does it ever plateau out?
I'll go down.
You know I'm going with this, right? Okay.
Yes, and those are just, and those traffic projections, and like I said, they're 30-year projection, and it's just for a planning tool, which helps us with how to design or how to configure the corridor.
Okay. So is there another alternative? I mean, for this area, just improve the pathways and just leave it 2 lanes wide?
No, so this area south of 294 is planned for a 3-lane road section. So the alternatives that I had mentioned was actually in Indian Head Park where,
Yeah, they have 3 lane versus 4 lane, right?
actually versus 5-lane.
5 lane, I'm sorry,
Right.
4 lane versus 3 lane.
Versus 5,
Right,
correct.
okay. So 3 lane or nothing?
Correct. And part of that is just to enhance the safety, and with traffic movements, your left turn movements are more detrimental to traffic flow than right turn movements.
Of course.
So that's why we're incorporating the left turn lane.
And how many cross streets are there in that section? Did you guys do a count? I'm curious. I didn't do a count, even though I drive on Wolf Road
Right.
every day, I didn't do a count.
I believe the only crossroad is 72nd, 79th.
72nd, 79th,
But you have Arrowhead and Indian Head Park, you got 74th Street, you have 75th Street.
73rd place.
Correct. So you have branches coming off, but not necessarily true cross sections.
77th, the condominium complex in Willow Springs. Okay, so 10 maybe, 10 maybe turning opportunities?
Yes.
Okay. Seems like not very many for a 3rd lane.
Okay. And that's all things we do take into consideration.
The Park District and the school parking lots as well?
Right.
Okay. Okay. Are you aware of the project that the village is coordinating and undertaking with Pleasantdale School District 107 and Pleasantdale Park District for the enhanced crossing?
Yes. The
at,
flashing beacons.
The
Yes,
flashing
sir.
beacons?
Yes.
So that's going in sooner rather than later. We're
Way
moving.
sooner.
Pardon me?
Way sooner.
Way sooner rather than later. And it's an immediate safety need, and it's been funded, and we'll be addressing that shortly. And how will this impact? I mean, we're building it for a 2-lane wide road.
Okay.
It's being right. We're not putting in for 3 lanes and pathways and stuff like that. It's
Right,
what's
no, you
existing there now.
need to build it for now. And once we get to that, even if it's in, whether it's in before we even finish phase 1 or it gets put in when we're in phase 2, it will become an existing condition to the project. And the county will be responsible for doing any kind of movement, widening, upgrades at that point.
Okay,
There'd be no cost to the village for that.
very good. Okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else?
Yep.
Tony, yeah, Joe.
Who maintains it afterward? The Cook County?
Cook County. Unless the village wants to do a jurisdictional transfer,
Mm-hmm.
it would remain in Cook County's jurisdiction.
Thank you.
Lastly, is there an anticipated timeline? Like if you started in June of 23 or June of 24, how long? 2 years?
I would say from the start of design to the finish of construction, you're looking at approximately 4 years.
Thank you.
Design's going to take approximately 2 years once we start, and then your construction, because we have to maintain traffic, will be approximately 2 years. Yes. Yes.
Are we anticipating getting any federal money for this?
That is something that the county will be looking at. Once our phase 1 is done, then the county can go out for grant money and try to get some funding from the state and also from the feds. But until that phase 1 is done, neither entity will commit to funding for the project.
Okay, I have a couple of things. On the slide that we're looking at right now, council's actually just pointed out something. So if you look at this school, as proposed, is the school going to lose all those parking spaces?
No, so right now, and that's, in the planning stage, this is the worst case that we anticipate right now of impacts to the school. Once we get into design, there may be the opportunity at this location that the bike path might be at the same elevation as the parking lot. So then we wouldn't need that additional right-of-way in order to make the grade transition. It could also be a situation where we get an easement, a temporary construction easement to adjust grades as opposed to actually acquiring land. And in any of these properties along this corridor, if there is easement requirements or land acquisition, there's a team that will, of surveyors, appraisers, lawyers, that will actually be negotiating with the property owners for any easement or land acquisition. That will not be the engineers.
But part of this may well be that Pleasantdale Middle School might lose that parking.
That could happen, but that's where we will work with the school district
Okay.
to try to minimize those impacts.
All right, but as drawn.
Yes.
It's got to be considered. Okay, could you go back?
West is left.
So this is outside of Burr Ridge,
This is
okay?
all Burr Ridge.
So, yeah, I know, but I want to go to the area that's at, I've already gotten emails from people outside of Burr Ridge.
Sure.
And that read our agendas and know about your meeting tomorrow night too, so expect some people there. So the question, and I might as well try and get an answer for it now because you're going to be asked tomorrow. So at the Joliet Road, Wolf Road, Joliet Road. Which one,
Come down 2 more files, right there.
it'll affect. Is this,
It's Wolf and Joliet at the light.
right. All right, so this is still in but there's a possibility that there could be proposed a 5-lane, as you were correcting Trustee Francis, 5 lanes at Wolf and Joliet, right?
Evan, there's another file on there. We can
Yeah,
pull up the 5-lane section. That one there. Mayor Grosso probably wants to zoom in at the northwest corner there. Keep going north, there you go. Is that the area that,
Yeah, so here's where I've already been getting emails about what's the realistic probability that this would be 5 lanes as opposed to 3 lanes? I mean, that's what you're going to be also hearing tomorrow night, I suspect. That's where I'm getting my emails from.
Sure. So part of this process, we cannot arbitrarily discount any design that traffic warrants and the engineering background suggest are needed for this intersection. So based on those traffic counts and based on the traffic projections, in order to maintain a certain level of service at that Joliet Road intersection, it indicates we need 2 northbound lanes, 2 southbound lanes, plus that turn lane.
And you'd also have to take some substantially more private property then.
Correct. The home that's hatched out closest to the intersection, that is kind of an obvious because the widening at that intersection actually goes into their home.
Right.
The house that's shown further to the north is in an area where, in order to keep Cochise attached and accessible to Wolf Road, we have to modify the grade on that roadway, which then also impacts that home.
Right.
So at this point, we have not evaluated all the public comment. And on the record, I cannot comment on which way we're going. But anticipating 100% negativity towards a 5-lane, along with the negative impacts to current residents, I suspect our recommendation will not be for a 5-lane. But until such time that we've completed our evaluation, I can't officially comment as yes or no, that is going to happen.
Sure, and not only that, but as I think your slides have already indicated, none of this has been funded.
The actual construction has not been funded, correct?
So, I mean, the only thing that's been funded right now is your planning, the phase 1 planning.
Correct, that is correct.
And so not even phase 2 or 3 has even been funded.
Correct,
And that would have to be funded by the Cook County Board.
that is correct.
And the decision might be affected by whether or not they're going to get any additional funds. And years from now. I mean, the likelihood, I mean, thank you for doing this, and I know it's part of your job and telling us all about this. But to the extent that any of the trustees are getting any calls, I've already gotten several emails from people in Burr Ridge and outside of Burr Ridge. And just like it started, I don't know how many you got when it was going Plainfield into Burr Ridge, where it was going to be widened. There was talk about taking more property, you know, and that's not going to happen and won't happen. But people understandably get excited about this. I think it's probably safe to say, I think I'm going to be telling people that are asking, that while it is a possibility that there will be a 5-lane interchange there someday to accommodate traffic in 2050, right? Knowing how government works, knowing that these are projects that haven't even been funded yet, and knowing that you have to deal with Cook County and their fiscal issues, you know, if I were to wager on this, I would wager for 3 lanes, not 5. And that's what I'm going to be telling people, based on our experience, generally in our knowledge at this point. So I don't think you strongly disagree, although you can't take a position. I get it.
Correct.
Okay.
You are probably accurate with your assessment. But again, until we go through all the findings and may actually prepare our final report for submittal, this is still a possibility. And with regards to the intersection and the level of service, I don't have the numbers in front of me. That's determined by your delays at each intersection.
Okay.
But a delay of 15 seconds longer could put you an entire class lower, like a D rating or an F rating. And ideally, you want to be a C or better. So that's where all these numbers come into play, which then warrants, you know, trying to move more vehicles through the intersection.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And more? Yes.
When you prepare your report, will there be cost estimates as well submitted?
I believe, yes, it's part of the phase 1 of very rough estimates.
Preliminary.
Correct.
Conceptual cost estimates. And looking at this slide, I just realized that in 5 lanes, you're going to impact that cemetery there, correct?
No, so we've,
No?
from day 1 of the kickoff meeting, at the kickoff meeting, the cemetery was discussed, and we are not impacting the wall of the cemetery
Everything gets pushed to the west.
to the west.
And that's why that's why you impact Cochise.
Exactly.
Got it, okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your presentation. The blue line, the light blue line, is that pedestrian or is that bicycle?
The wide one,
Yep.
that is it's considered a multi-use, so it's bicycles, pedestrians, it's anything. Because for a sidewalk, not that I've seen any law enforcement ever enforce this, typically sidewalks are not allowed to have bicycles on it. Now, children obviously is one issue, but traditionally, the sidewalk is for walking purposes only. That's why we have this design of a multi-use path, so it's bikes and pedestrians.
Just a safety concern. I think is it 71st Street that we get a lot of residents coming from the village center here to Wolf Road? Is that the connector?
72nd.
Yeah, that's a pretty high traffic area for our residents, and I can just see the issues of having pedestrians or bicycles coming across in front of you trying to turn out of 72nd It's just something that,
Sure.
I know it's well used there.
The traffic study confirms what you're saying. When he pulled up the traffic study earlier, the numbers were high.
Yep.
And we do recognize that. We even looked at seeing if that intersection met signal warrants for the county to pay for, and they do not. So at this stage in the project, there is no plan to actually add a traffic control signal at 72nd Street. That might, that might happen down the way, but at this point, the numbers don't justify it, which, we can always, there's always a point one way or the other regarding, the engineering numbers. Why do we got to wait until something bad happens? But at this point, for funding purposes, that intersection does not meet signal warrants.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, anyone else? Good questions. Thank you.
So and before, I just want to point a few things out on the screen. So on the right-hand side of the screen, we are showing the full replacement of the Wolf Road Bridge. As we come south to the school, if you can, Evan, can you zoom in at the island we show at the school, at the crossing? So yeah, if you can zoom in on that, that'd be great. So right now, we are proposing the standard for protected crosswalks is 50 feet each side of the crossing. So Evan, if you can go up where it says alternate crossing, if you can pan up that way. So right there, you can see the island in the middle of Wolf Road, right near the intersection of 75th Street. So in order for us to get the design standard of 50 feet each side of that crossing, we have to move that school crossing to the south. We believe, and most planners believe, that even if we do that, you're going to find parents, teachers, the kids, they're used to coming crossing where they do now, they're going to still cross at that location, even if there's not a sidewalk. Mm-hmm. So what we're looking at, if we go back down to where you were, Evan, so in order to make it work in the same location, it's a truncated or reduced island. And this would actually be a barrier curb, so it's going to be a 6-inch or higher island that gives the pedestrians refuge in the middle of the street, provides some protection, and then allows them to get across. Ideally, we're probably going to do some type of combination of the full-size island and the smaller island. We have to take into consideration not only the school's at 2 exit lanes onto Wolf Road right there in front of the school, but also the Park District entrance, which is what drove that large island as far south to 75th Street, like it's shown in the little window there. So during our phase 2, that's where we'll work hand in hand with the school district and the Park District to come up with some kind of happy medium for this crossing. But we, even before the village got their grant for the flashing beacons, we were already looking at something for this because we knew that it was highly used. Talking with Dave, he indicated that the school is always crossing Wolf Road there during the day, using the park for their PE classes and stuff like that. So we know it's an area that we are looking at and with extra detail.
Since I'm going to just open up another line, since you just brought something up, Russ, Evan, would you go north past 72nd Street? The entrance to 294, where is that entrance at 294? Right here, okay. So go up, bring this down a little bit, so we'll stop right there. So remember when we were building the village center, this goes back to, we in fact planned to have a bridge go over and line up exactly with the on-ramp to 294. That was in the original plans. In fact, the reason there's $800,000 that was sitting in that account, which we helped to pay off our debt, was because back then we negotiated, we let them out of the contract of building that bridge for the $800,000 and put it in the bank back in 2010 or 11, whatever that was. But if that, forget funds right now, okay? If that bridge was there that went on, and that's your 71st Street,
Yep.
okay? And the whole idea was to take traffic down 71st Street, because we own a little piece of, Burr Ridge owns a little piece of land over there, and also have a direct, shot right onto 294. Would you look at that conceptually as you're doing this and see if that is a potential safety solution to not having so much traffic on 72nd Street and making that left turn? This is long-term planning.
Sure.
Cost aside, okay,
I understand.
who would pay for it? But at least consider that was actually part of our plan, right, Guy, back in
Yes, it was.
20,
Extend 71st Street to Wolf Road and via a bridge over Flag Creek, and that would reduce the traffic on 72nd Street, because that was the residents' objection
Right.
of 72nd Street building the Village Center, was the increased traffic, and the increased traffic has come to fruition.
right. Now, we'll get people in from 71st Street that complaining about putting
Yep.
the traffic down there, but in fact, as you know, 71st Street, there's only houses on the west, on the south
South
side. And you have the wall to 294 and that was the whole idea. Plus, we own some land down there that we were gonna use, make a little park, et cetera, et cetera. So certainly it was something that the village wanted to do 10, 12 years ago, and wasn't necessary, but, and it was never being done to make it safer to go on and off 72nd Street, but it likely would. So I'm just throwing out a thought to you.
Sure.
Since it was a good idea then, we didn't do it for real good reasons, but if you're gonna ever get to do this, then maybe another safety solution, depending on who pays for it, might be that bridge on 71st Street.
Sure.
Okay?
That's definitely something we can look at.
And we had gotten the approvals from Salt Creek. Remember, we had to go through all the Army Corps of Engineers, and so that's already kind of in the can. I'm sure they'd have to look at it again and everything, but depending on, again, who would pay for it, that might be a safety solution and a traffic solution that was originally
Yeah,
planned for.
and it's definitely something we can consider when we're putting together our final report. Just first glance at the area right there, I would anticipate a realignment of Flag Creek at Wolf Road in order to get another bridge heading west, because the two bridges would negatively impact each other. Then also the amount of, like, you can look at 72nd Street and you can see, in order to have, I guess you would only need a northbound and a southbound. Actually, you would need 3 lanes there also, because if that became your connection and you cut off 72nd Street, because you wouldn't want to make the move to 71st and keep 72nd, because people are creatures of habit, and they would still use 72nd Street unless you actually cut that off at Wolf Road.
Oh, well, I don't think we plan to do that. You mean dead end 72nd Street?
Correct.
No, I don't.
At some
think
point,
that
I would
would ever
think,
happen.
well, in order to, as a traffic engineer, I would think you would need to do some type of disconnection of 72nd Street in order to get people to not continue using 72nd and actually use 71st Street.
Well, we're probably getting too much into the weeds, but I will just tell you, since I was sitting here then, and Guy was very much, and Al was very much part of that also, there was never any discussion about capping 72nd Street and having a bridge. We were gonna have both.
Okay.
Right, Al? I mean, right? Right?
Right, correct.
All right. So anyhow, food for thought. That's all I meant. I don't want to
Absolutely,
get.
absolutely. It's good to have all this background.
Right.
Like I said, it was 10, 12 years ago, however long it was, but well before this project was even considered. So it's good to have that background information.
All right, thank you. Any other questions by any trustees? Anybody in the public that have any questions?
Just real quick, and Evan, if you can go to the south end at 79th Street, I just want to highlight some of those improvements. So at the intersection here, we would be going a little bit south of 79th, just to transition from 2 lanes to 3 lanes. I believe there might be 3 lanes there now at the light. I don't recall. It's been a couple months.
Left turn lanes.
Yes.
So this would actually be extending it so that everything lines up with once you head north of 79th Street, and we would terminate north of the bridge. And then heading east on 79th, The bridge is wide enough at 79th Street there in Flag Creek, so we would then just be making new improvements up until that bridge. And then if you go on the west leg, we'd also be making some improvements there. That one, based on our traffic, you see there's a 200-foot storage length for that left turn lane, so there's more traffic coming from that direction. Most likely it's generated for AM traffic, your peak traffic, for people trying to get on 294 and head north on Wolf Road. So that is most likely the justification for that longer storage area for people trying to turn left.
It's also a lot of UPS traffic.
Sure.
Getting off of I-55 coming from the south.
Okay.
And then getting off of County Line Road and heading to UPS.
Okay. So we would be bringing down the sidewalk all the way to that intersection along with the bike path. So the sidewalk you see on the bottom of the screen there, it's still on the east side of Wolf Road. It would cross to the southeast quadrant of the intersection and then get you across the south leg to head north, to head back west to tie into the existing walk that's further west on 79th Street there. So, you guys, Evan does have all this information on his computer now, so if you guys, if anything else comes up, you can reach out to myself. I do have some comment forms here, public comment forms. Also, Village of Indian Head Park, their website has a link to all of these documents, including the stuff north of Burr Ridge, along with an electronic form for public comment. That, I believe the form on Indian Head Park's website does indicate April 28th as the closing of the public comment period, but that got extended about 2 weeks ago due to tomorrow night's meeting. And Indian Head Park requested with the county, can we open it up for an additional 2 weeks of public comment, and they obliged.
It is on our website as well, on our front page.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Very well done, thank you. Yes,
Was there any public comment from the audience?
is there? Yeah, come on up.
Hi, I'm Dave Pelzad. I'm the superintendent of Pleasantdale School District 107. I've obviously paying really close attention to this project. It has a huge impact on our students and on our community. While our board hasn't had a public discussion about this particular project yet, so I don't want to speak for the board until they've been able to have that public discussion or at least provide direction to me as the administrator. I will say that this is a board who has always acted in the best interest and safety of students and families. I will say that the traffic beacon project that we recently received in partnership with the Village of Burr Ridge and the Park District is, I think that was our third try at getting that grant. So we have a long history of trying to improve the safety along that Wolf Road corridor. We were successful in lobbying the county to get the speed limit from 45 to 40. If this project were to go through, I would advocate for that speed limit to come down to 35 as for that section in front of the school. Our kids cross that street probably every 40 minutes for gym. And as you know, there's a ton of back and forth crossing at the beginning and end of each school day as students are going either to the Park District for activities, or if their parents are picking them up actually in that parking lot, or if that's the route that they take to get home if they live north or just south of the school. Like I said, the board I can't come and say, the Pleasantdale School District Board has this opinion. I will say that while, with safety being the main concern, speaking as the superintendent, I would say a third lane with a traffic island and beacons, functioning beacons, I should say pedestrian controlled beacons, because we already have beacons on the full end, is definitely a more attractive solution than a 4-lane divided highway, which is what was proposed, I think, back in 2018 or something like that. So just wanted to kind of put that out there and make sure that the school district is well represented. I look forward to continuing these conversations and seeing what comes of the project. So thank you. Any questions for me or for this?
No, but would you leave me a phone number I can reach you at?
Sure.
Yes?
Will the Pleasantdale District 107 Board be taking this up at a future meeting?
I would leave that
establish a
up to the
position?
board president to make that determination, but I could assume either they would take it up at a future meeting or they would provide direction to the administration.
Very good, thank you.
I'll write it down and
Okay,
leave it right here. For
thank you.
Mhm.
Anybody, any questions, comments?
I do want to add one thing.
Sure.
Superintendent mentioned the reduction in the speed limit. Right now, we are already planning to reduce and make the recommendation to reduce the speed limit in this section to 35 miles an hour.
Well, good to know.
So that is already part of our project plan. I forgot to mention it
All
initially.
right. Good collaborative effort. Thank you. All right, we can move on. Oh, yes, sorry.
Do we want to establish a consensus and then forward a position that the village might have to Indian Head Park?
Just a couple, one quick option. So again, the public comment period has been extended to May 12th. We do have another board meeting on May 9th. We can certainly take direction from the board tonight, but you do have an option to put this back on an agenda in the future if you'd like to sign to think about it. But again, it's the board's directive as to how you guys would like to proceed.
So if the comment period goes to May 12th?
Yes, you do have time to have it on a future agenda, should you like.
So maybe not the 9th, but would you be okay if we did it the 23rd?
Let's pass the comment period. May
Oh, so we have to make, we have to comment before then, so
Right.
I'm sorry.
So you can do that tonight or at the next meeting. I'm just saying those are the two before the end of the comment period.
Well, let's see if there's some consensus now, no point in delaying anything.
Well, it's fresh in our minds and
Right.
it's current, yeah.
So, anybody want to start? Anybody have a position?
You, Francis. Trustee Smith? I'll take a stab at it. I would support the 3-lane proposal with all of the enhancements in front of the school and the park district that are being suggested, the reduction in speed limit to 35 miles an hour in front of that area, and the pathways that are being proposed as well. If this should not get funded to the full extent, then I would just support the pathway enhancements that were being suggested so that the pedestrians are not, completing the pathways so the pedestrians are not forced to ride their bikes or walk or jog on Wolf Road, and also support a reduction in speed limit to 35 miles an hour, which should not cost that much.
I would think that that's, certainly I would be in that same position, and I would only add to that, that as pointed out by Trustee Smith, 72nd Street would be a concern of mine. And if this is going to be properly funded, I wouldn't think there would be that much more money, and I defer to the experts, to do some kind of, maybe not a full signal, but some kind of signaling to motorists that are especially making that left turn going north on Wolf, because we are going to then be encouraging pedestrian and bicycle traffic there, and it's going to become more dangerous. And just as a footnote, I'd like a checklist to just tell us if the 71st Street is also a viable option. That might be something that a future village board here might want to look at for the overall safety of the residents that are on the Burr Ridge side of this project. But I think the 3 lanes, as proposed, is probably the most realistic, even from a funding standpoint. And I'm in concurrence, of course, with lowering the speed limit and all the other things that Trustee Francis said. So. Anybody else?
Actually, I just remembered a question. Are there going to be any more lighted intersections, or is everything going to stay the same regarding stop signs and lighted intersections?
I don't think there's any more traffic light, and there won't be any more traffic lights, but I suppose a question would be, is there going to be any more enhanced
Traffic control?
not traffic control, but lights. Street lamps, thank you. I'm struggling. Any more street lamps or any different street lamps, or I suppose state of the art at the time, if any were needed?
You're right. As we get closer to the end, adding street lighting along the corridor is probably going to be included. But that decision won't come until after we've done this evaluation, and as we get closer to the end of the phase one, and then actually might get delayed. That decision might occur during the engineering portion, but that will all be part of the discussions with the county with regards to what improvements have to be made for the corridor.
Right, but you're now adding a bike path, which is a good thing, I'm not criticizing this, and wider, I think somewhere along the line, because it's always good to have choice, that since you have Indian Head Park involved, Burr Ridge involved, future boards should at least be given the option of adding monies to the project. Now, the county might want to do this, but for some added dollars by a future Burr Ridge board or an Indian Head Park board, we might want to have some better lighting, especially on the Burr Ridge side, especially on the 72nd Street area. So there should be some options to bring Burr Ridge, that board, to the table then, and Indian Head Park. I'm not suggesting what should be done with Indian Head Park, but I would think that they would like to know alternatives that a board could vote on as to whether or not we would spend some extra money to enhance the safety aspects that affect our particular villages.
I would anticipate at a minimum, there would be lighting upgrades at the intersections. With regards to the rest of the corridor, that could be a decision at a later time. Like you said, maybe Burr Ridge wants it and Indian Head Park doesn't.
Right.
You know, so that could definitely be something for discussion at a later point.
Well, I'd advocate that Burr Ridge at least be given some alternatives to make some decision.
No, absolutely. It's your corridor.
Right.
Yes, it's the county project, but, you know, it's still, that's why we're here today, and that's why I reached out to Dave and Janine to actually introduce the information to them prior to the public information meeting, so that the board, you guys had a decision whether or not you wanted to come to that meeting or not. So I came, I presented to Dave and Janine, and Jim actually, and then they were able to make that decision. But that's part of the whole process. We're not trying to exclude anyone. Even Countryside, who only basically has the golf course, met with Countryside also and showed them the project. So Administrator Paul, she was there, and you know, so she's got the information also. So this is still an open dialogue between all the property owners, including the cemetery, the school. I know everyone along this corridor got notification letters. Politicians, even outside of Burr Ridge, got the notification letter about the public information meeting. So it is a very open dialogue for this entire process.
Thank you. So we have a consensus. We'll put something down in writing. I'll have it passed out to you, and then we'll get it out. Okay?
Good. And I agree with the light at 72nd as well. I think, and then you can also light the special use path as well.
Mm-hmm.
Put a signal there to make those people aware of that traffic coming from 72nd.
All right. Good. Thank you very much. Dave, anything more?
No, as staff, we were getting into some of the finer points of that, especially as it relates to the Flag Creek Bridge. That's in some poor condition too, so we wanted to see that gets replaced. Where that bike path is could be maybe more on the east side, in front of like the Walker Park and the Historical Society as a destination. So to the signalization point, that was kind of our comment too, and could be a logical point to cross the bike path.
Would you dust off the plans of 71st Street and just share them?
We shared that with them back when
Okay.
we had this kickoff in 2020, and said we wanted to present this as an option, and
All right.
we want you to have this information.
Cool. Yeah.
I would also ask that something be put on our website to call out the meeting tomorrow evening. I know
Yes,
it's
it's,
quite late. Also links to the public comment forums and the documents that are being provided by Indian Head Park. So our residents in the village can go click on our website and then go be redirected to the Indian Head Park website should they want to be.
All right. It's going to be at the Lionsville
Church.
Church. That church on.
So it's right here on our website. It links to
It
Indian
is
Head
already?
Parks. Yes. But we will,
Is that the new website?
this is the Indian Head Park website.
I understand it.
We will clean, this is our website here, which links to the Indian Head Park website. We'll clean
Got it.
this, we'll clean this button.
It's already there. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Good. Thank you. Anything more, Dave? All righty. So that takes us down to item 9, public comment. Do we have any public comment? All right. Reports and communications from village officials.
All right.
Start out with Anita as usual.
Okay, well, I'm very excited to report, we're gonna have the 5K and the 1K run on May 7th. The 5K starts at 8 a.m. and 1K starts at 9 a.m. The early registration's done, but I believe it's like $45 per person to register now. Following that, we have the Armed Forces Day on May 21st, and then the concert series will begin this year on June 2nd. It'll be every Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. in the Village Green. So we have a very nice lineup, thanks to Ms. Hannah Wyant. So thank you to her for arranging all of this. So we're looking forward to all the village residents participating at these events.
Anyone else?
Mayor?
Yes.
Just a commentary about the weather's getting nicer, and we are going to start seeing more motorcycles out there and more bicycles out there, which is also a time that pothole season is becoming very prevalent. I want to thank Director Presick for taking care of a fairly large issue on County Line Road and 79th Street. There are some more issues on County Line Road, so I just ask that Public Works kind of keep an eye open for some of these potholes out there, because they're extremely dangerous for our two-wheeling friends.
Yeah, and even the four-wheelers, I've seen some deep ones. And David, can we fix potholes on County Line Road?
County Line Road is also county jurisdiction. Part of it is dug out through the ramps. We'll go by it.
Okay. And any that are particularly bad, and there are one or two, I'd at least put a cone up or somewhere, okay? Because getting the county out here, I'm not too sure when it's gonna happen.
It takes some time. We'll go through.
Okay, good. Thank you for that.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Any other trustees? Any other comment?
Oh, I got one.
Yes.
Happy birthday.
Oh,
Yes, happy birthday.
thank you. Yes, it is my birthday. Yes. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Had a nice birthday. We have our Sunday dinners, and so the family had a nice Sunday dinner yesterday. We had a nice little cake, and my grandsons got to blow out the candles, and that's the way it should be. That's good. So I have a couple of announcements. First, I want to start with a somber one, frankly. I have to inform you and pay some respects and recognize retired police officer Angie, to us, always Angie Zuccaro Wilhelmi, who passed away on April 15th after a courageous battle with pancreatic cancer. Way too young, way too soon. Officer Angie, she was always Officer Angie to us, faithfully served the Burr Ridge Police Department and the citizens of Burr Ridge for over 25 years. During her tenure, she served as a patrol officer, a detective, a community policing officer, and she was instrumental in researching and developing the department's DARE program. If you thought about the DARE program in its early years, you thought about Angie, because she was our DARE person, got that all off the ground for us. She touched our lives. She helped our community. It's too early a loss, and we offer our deepest condolences to Angie's family and friends. April 29th, please join us for Arbor Day. The village will hold a tree planting ceremony at 10 a.m. at the Veterans Memorial in front of the Village Hall. A Showtime crabapple tree will be planted in honor of Jack Schaus. And, what a great guy. One of the founding members of the Veterans Memorial Committee, and all are invited to join us on April 29th. Burr Ridge and Willowbrook Little League opening day is this Saturday, April 30th. The ceremony begins at 8 a.m. at Harvester Park, and I'll be there to throw out the first pitch, and Mayor Trilla is usually there. He's recovering from a illness, and so I'll be there to throw out the first pitch. This year, I promised to get the ball all the way to the catcher's mitt and not bounce it into the catcher as I did last year. As a former baseball player, I was pretty embarrassed. So the village fully supports the Little League program and wishes all players and teams a fun and exciting season. A couple of other points I want to make. This is Ramadan for our Muslim friends, and Ramadan ends May 2nd. I was privileged to be invited to the Dawoodi Barras Mosque along County Line Road, along 83 and 91st Street, and celebrated a barbecue with them last Saturday night, April 16th. Really was a great, and what a facility there, and they're building a school, and what a vibrant community, and I was very honored to be there last Saturday representing Burr Ridge at that event. And similarly, on April 20th at the Mecca Center, we broke bread and had a togetherness dinner after sundown. Of course, trustees Schiappa and Al Paveza were there with me, and it was really a nice message of togetherness that was celebrated that night. So very privileged to be the mayor and represent people there that night. You guys want to comment? Right? You were there.
Oh, it was a wonderful event. I've gone to it for a couple of years now, and they really make me feel like home, part of the family, and I enjoy meeting the people there. A lot of Burr Ridge residents belong to that mosque, and so it's a great time to learn how we're doing as trustees, and no one had any comments for us, so I think we're doing well.
Well, they did have comments, but the comments were all rather positive.
Right.
So it was good. Anyhow, always good to get out. Information is wonderful. Seeing how other people celebrate their religion is also wonderful. Dates are very tasty. I've forgotten about. My mom used to eat dates all the time, and you break the fast with eating a date, and that was very, very good. So with that, that's all the reports I have. Anybody else want to add anything? Can I get a motion to adjourn to May 9 at 7 p.m.?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.